My name is Councillor Alyson Pugh, and I'm the Cabinet Member for Supporting Communities in Swansea Council. It's a broad portfolio, you know, largely within it, poverty, employability, welfare rights, all the vulnerable groups, you know, and community safety. So it is a large portfolio, and it's really sort of had to come into its own in the last 18 months with the pandemic, you know, but and like other speakers have just said now, you know, we've always had loneliness issues in the community for people, unfortunately, you know, but it has become more prevalent in the, you know, now sort of thing. So, you know, an immediate action for the council when we sort of knew that it was imminent. It was, you know, days, and there was going to be the lockdown. You know, we sat around that table and we worked with the third sector. We dropped out barriers, our red tape. You know, we pulled people out of their silos. You know, and just said, this is what's got to happen. We've all got to work together. The immediate thought was obviously poverty. It was food. It was, you know, food, drinks, housing over people's heads, making sure nobody was on the streets. And, you know, and that in itself was a huge sort of task. But it was fantastic to see that red tape, which normally is like wading through blinking treacle in a council or a health board, do you know what I mean? Being able to go. So we, you know, we recognise the impact it's having on loneliness, was having on well-being of people of all ages. And, you know, Swansea Council, like I said, together with our partners across Swansea, took those steps to keep people connected. And I can't discuss in 5 minutes all the sort of things, so I'll just touch on a few. You know, with a shift in our services and relationships moving across to the digital realm, those who were digitally excluded were at risk of becoming even further isolated. Various schemes were established that put digital devices into the hands of people who could benefit from them, together with the additional support to build the digital skills needed for people to get the most out of it, whether that be accessing vital services, staying in touch with friends and family, or developing new friendships. And our lifelong learning team played a major role here, and everything was free. There was no cost, you know, and they spent a long time supporting people, as did many of the projects, you know, helping people, because this was a sort of new era thrown upon us. You know, our local area coordination team were temporarily expanded to cover all the communities in Swansea, and the LACs played a real key role in connecting our most vulnerable residents with community support and services. SCVS in Swansea harnessed the support from the voluntary sector, and the overwhelming support that came forward from within our communities was just unbelievable. Volunteers were trained and supported to be in a befriending role to meet the various needs of people. You know, we had a hospital discharge scheme established to ensure that when being discharged from hospital during the pandemic, you know, people could be introduced to with checks in place to ensure that people had access to food, the support they needed, because you know, being unwell and on your own as well and isolated at home or wherever was going to be even harder. Swansea Council took over the delivery of the Welsh Government shielding food parcels, and the delivery team were able to carry out well-being checks and could offer, you know, to link people in to other services in the community or within the council. Welfare rights were just really busy and were fantastic at making sure people had the right money, the right benefits. You know, the Swansea Poverty Truth Commission facilitation team continue to work to identify their community commissioners and bring them together online to start building those relationships and stay connected. And with a different hat on, because I'm got a background of health. I've been a nurse and health visitor for 35 years. I set up, I still do a couple of hours for health because I can't say no. And I set up Dance to Health groups, which are falls prevention groups for older people across Swansea Bay Health Board, Howell, just met with Cardiff. And you know, the loneliness has always been there for older people to come to the groups. But in COVID, we particularly had a group with carers, predominantly people who were carers, and they, you know, it was heartbreaking. Their partner husbands had dementia, and they said, we'll see anybody. you're the only face that we see in the week. You know, honestly, it is heartbreaking. So, we deliver our services and we connect with services that has changed drastically. The connection is, I can't describe it properly. As we recover, we have the opportunity to build on the best elements of these new ways of working together with our partners and our communities. And it's been vital over the course of this pandemic and going forward that we listen to the research, because when I met with Hannah here a long time ago now at the beginning, and we were talking of the research of young people being identified as being the most vulnerable, where yet in society everybody thought the older people were the most vulnerable people. And that's not to say they weren't, and they weren't lonely, but that research identified the young people earlier on than what the actual projects were seeing it. And now when I speak to my employability teams, it's absolutely obvious that the young people have been really, really affected by COVID, but the research was ahead of the game in identifying. And I think, we have to learn from that, and we have to continue to work with everybody.